The next day, Borisenko and I flew to the Emerald City to meet citizen journalist Matthew Adams.
You can feel the heat.
Who's been covering Antifa chaos for several years.
They're absolutely trying to recruit for Antifa.
We infiltrated the Seattle Anarchist Book Fair hosted by the Vera Project.
They want to put our picture up there for being a fascist.
And were immediately greeted by a massive board featuring a so-called wall of fascists. That's us in the photos. Once we got in wearing disguises, the messaging and the vibe were pretty much the same as the Oakland Book Fair. More far-left propaganda, calls for anarchist violence against the ruling class.
I hope to see all of you soon, 10 minutes.
And hyper-sexualized content targeting minors. Borisenko even obtained a flyer for an Antifa direct action in a city park scheduled for Halloween Eve.
Jonathan, this image that you actually texted me over the weekend that I got to see before, you guys had made this announcement that you had infiltrated. This to me looked like a hit list, a kill list that was printed up on the wall of journalists, of conservatives that were all over the wall of this Antifa cell. Describe it for me and tell me what you learned about it.
So, Jack, Carlin and I, along with citizen journalist Matthew Adams, we were in two different spots. We first started off in Oakland, and that's when they were using social media to really warn people, especially about Carlin and her presence. They knew that she could potentially infiltrate this space. Then we fly to Seattle, and that's when I see this massive board, again, at the Vera Project. It is a space within Climate Pledge Arena. This is where the Seattle Kraken play. This is where Seattle's WNBA team plays. So this is a place where you have, millions of people who visit every single year. And then in this room, as soon as we walk in, there is a massive board, so to speak, and they call it the fascist wall. My photos on it, Matthew Adams' photos on it, Carlin's photos on it. Of course, your colleague, Katie Davis-Court over at Post Millennial, her photos on it, along with other Pacific Northwest and West Coast journalists. And basically, it was not just a warning to keep us out. I truly believe it was a warning to the Antifa thugs who were mingling in this room to look out for us and target us and to hurt us. So we knew that going in. So we tried our best to go in disguise. I was wearing a mask. I was wearing a queer liberation shirt. But eventually, towards the tail end, we were in there only for about 15, 20 minutes. We were outed. They recognized me. They recognized citizen journalist Matthew Adams after all of his, coverage on the front lines here. And we had to book out of there ASAP. And they sent about 5, 6, 7 transgender activists after us. And again, that's how Antifa and these far left activists play. They'll never come at us one-on-one. They'll send like 20 people. So we got out of there. We got the story. So that's what you're seeing right now.
And what sort of information did they have included on that? Because it does seem that, so it's mentioning sort of the list of crimes, but did this include, and obviously we're not going to zoom in because I don't know if it's totally redacted. I'm sure you guys aren't going to put anything like that, but did it include things like addresses, doxes, that type of stuff?
Well, it didn't have our specific addresses on the wall, but I know that there's a similar wall right now online with more details. What was on this were our photos, our names, and also which cities we lived and operated in. So again, it was a call out to their comrades to look out for us, especially in these protest hot zones or these anarchist book fairs. And again, I was actually surprised at the planning and coordination. I have never really been to these anarchist book fairs in Seattle. I've known about them, but I had no idea what was really happening inside. And the fact that they went out of their way to have security put up this wall shows that this isn't just something that happens organically. This was intentionally planned. This is a sophisticated operation. And again, the anarchist book fairs are not these innocuous places to just go pick up a good read. It's where they plan, they strategize, and they recruit and they indoctrinate through their far left violent propaganda.
And Jonathan, before I ask you how it felt to see your name up there, is that a security system that I see on the wall beneath the pictures?
Yeah, look, I didn't take a really close look, so I'm looking at the same photo you do. But yeah, there were cameras there as well. There were security guards. They had people with walkie-talkies. They were looking out for us. They were also looking out for anyone who looked like police officers or the feds, because they know that they're going to be infiltrated eventually.
That
And
that
they have in
security,
the
by the way,
past.
Jonathan, that security was that armed security?
I couldn't tell, but they definitely had batons. I can tell you that. I didn't know if they had,
Wow.
pistols, but I'm sure. I just assume whenever I go to these events, especially these direct actions, that the Antifa militants, at the very least, have bear spray or knives. But I didn't see any guns. But they had walkie-talkies. They were all masked up, and it was again coordinated, and that's what was really concerning. And it was a total risk for us to go in there, but we made it out, and we're thankful.
Well, look, you're seeing again. You guys are see what you went up against. They say this stuff doesn't exist. They've got sophisticated security. They've got communications security, communications operations, ComSec, where they're using walkie-talkies because obviously they're worried. And clearly, by the way, the use of walkie-talkies or ham radios is a way to attempt to circumvent police or federal infiltration of their comms because they're worried about their cell phones being infiltrated or wiretapped by the FBI. That's one of the reasons that you see them practicing ComSec like that. I remember in Chaz in 2020, they were using microphones and walkie-talkies with push-to-talk that was operated over Bluetooth, like a Bluetooth mesh network. So what they would be doing is they would set up a digital network locally with local repeaters and local routers that wasn't, so they're not even operating off the cell phone towers, but it was basically just from within the Chaz itself, and they could communicate from one checkpoint to another checkpoint. And in those cases, they were armed with the John Brown Gun Club of Puget Sound with both long rifles and handguns.